Hey guys, so years ago when I was a teenager, I was living at home with my parents, and so was my sister. She was like a young adult, freshly out of high school. I can't remember if she was taking college classes or not, but anyway, she worked at a gym, and so she got like six-pack abs, and she looked amazing. And I was running a lot, and we were both in really, really good shape at the time, like super good. It's like the best shape of our lives. And I remember we talked with each other about it, and both of us, I said something about, like, I'd almost like to gain like 10 pounds just so I could lose it because we were so into fitness and healthy eating and exercise. And she's like, yeah, I feel that way too. And I've thought about that, and it's like how stupid and crazy that seems. And yet that's kind of what we're doing here with consciousness. Like, we fell asleep because we thought it would be fun to wake up. And so this journey is often portrayed as a journey, and it's often portrayed in many different ways. And so everything that can be said about the journey is complete and utter bullshit. Just like the idea of a girl speaking to you on the camera, or me being in this room alone speaking to myself in front of a camera, is just a story. It's just explaining what's happening in the present moment. And so awakening is both not happening, and uh, it's a joyful experience. It's something you came here that you wanted to do. It was your intention. And so stop thinking that you're ever going to get there, because it feels, one thing I've been realizing lately is when you have an epiphany or an insight, it feels like that's it. It feels like you've understood this certain aspect of reality and it's been revealed to you. And on one level it has, and yet the illusion is such a tangled web that it takes a long time, and it takes a long time of like traveling along that web and different, all the way down different roads, and being like, oh, this is how that insight applies to this and 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 this. And so as we have life situations come up and we have memories come up, and we completely reframe and understand things in a different way, and it feels like we're always bringing in new aspects of life, meeting new people. And so we're always sort of exploring from a different angle this whole awakening thing. And so it's truly an illusionary process, and it is such a trip itself. It is the trip. And it's funny that people go on trips in order to understand the trip, but it's a trip. And so lately I've been listening to a bunch of Abraham Hicks, because the way I was brought up and the way that I came into my spiritual journey was very anti that kind of thing, anti having desires, and more about being a person who didn't have desires. And it was very much about seeking the truth and trying to be authentic. And now I realize, when I get really deep into this work, I don't want to make a video. I don't want to get in front of the camera, and I don't want to interact with other people, because it feels like whenever I do that, I have to put on this sort of Mandy facade. And I know that that's not real. And I want to be authentic. Well, how can I be Mandy at all and still be authentic? And so you have to, at some point, I guess, this is my best guess, you have to kind of accept that and make the most of it and make it what you want it to be. And so understanding what desire is and letting myself have desires is a trip, because it's not what I expect it to be either. And so what sort of set the ball really rolling, and really what started making spirituality like front and center in my life within this past year, was just me understanding that I was here I was here on earth because it's fun, and that I needed to start taking care of of myself, and so like self-care and all of that kind of thing, and letting myself want the things I want. And as soon as I did that, I realized how difficult it was to know what I truly wanted. And so we're kind of like, by making mistakes and everything, we're trying to figure out what it is that we want. And so like sitting down with a piece of paper has been really instrumental for me. And lately I realized every time I sat down, I'd just write down, I want a clean house. I want a clean house. And I kept thinking that that was going to happen. And I finally put the focus on that. And I was like, why is this continually coming up and not getting done? And you know what? That was the thing I wanted most of all. In my house, like, this seems like such a materialistic thing, but my house seems to be a catalyst for a whole bunch of spiritual stuff. Like right after I had my son, I got overwhelmed with stuff in my house. And so that's when I discovered the Zen Habits blog and minimalism. And that's when some of the Buddhist ideas started coming into my life, and I really understood that side of wisdom that I hadn't really had access to before. And so I've continually, like, having an organized, clean house has been what I wanted. And yet I thought that spirituality was an inner journey, and I should take care of creativity first, and I should take care of everything. And now I realize, you know what? You want a clean house? It's not materialistic. Make it a goal. And I realized, like, as I cleaned my house up this past week and I put this picture, I had this really nice picture frame, I put it on the wall. And as I started to appreciate things, I realized that appreciation is the same feeling we're trying to cultivate every day in life in meditation. And so in my own home, the place I spend the most time, I wasn't allowing myself to actually take the time and understand how important it was to me to have a clean house, because I had all kinds of beliefs about, well, my mother-in-law is obsessive about her house being clean, and wanting a clean house isn't really spiritual, and dirt is spiritual, so, and all these kinds of things. And instead I just like, you want something, you want it for a reason, and let yourself have it, and you'll figure out what that reason is. And almost always I find that the reason is just to feel good, to feel at peace, to feel presence. And that's all we really want. And that's all we're really going for. And that's all we really have in the present moment, if we can get through all the false beliefs and things that are keeping us from it. And so this is also I'm trying to go through all the false beliefs I've had in life. And one of the biggest ones is that I get seasonal affective disorder, and I hate November. And a few days ago, I had a really, really dark day. It was really bad. I could not pick myself out of that depression. I tried to be present with it. I reminded myself saying, this is a story. This is a complete story. There's no like true way that you feel. And eventually what pulled myself out of it was going into this sort of fantasy where I was going to make my life less secluded, and I was going to start to join this meditation group and make the effort to do it. And as soon as I made that decision, I was like, I felt so much better. It was like the clouds had lifted and everything broke. And then I dropped that idea like a rock, because I don't really I grew up like fighting against the Christian dogma, and I really don't want to put myself under a label. And I don't honestly have the time for it. And so I see this complete complete and utter bullshit that like I want to have friends and love and connection and everything in my life. But you know what? I feel like right now I have 2 kids and a business to run, and I want a clean house, and I don't have time for it. And so occasionally I'm not letting myself have this desire. I have the desire, but you know what? Truly, I don't really want it right now. Or I want it to happen in a way where I'm not forcing it to happen. I want a path of least resistance to get this thing that I want. And so pay attention to the things you want, because they'll take you on a trip. It's all trips within trips anyway. So yeah, I can't remember if there's anything else I wanted to say in this video. Did I already say? I've been pretty busy lately, so I'm gonna try to keep making videos. And like I say, sometimes I just get so, I don't know, normally I look like a slob and I dress like a slob because, like I say, I live a really secluded life. And so these videos kind of make me feel like I have something to do with other people, but at the same time, like, that's just something I'm trying to figure out right now. Like, why do I have to cut myself off from people so much? And yet I feel cut off from people. I don't know. I'm just looking at you know, like you get to this point where you don't really have to feel bad about things anymore, and you realize how silly it is to feel bad about things. You just look at it from this outside perspective and laugh at how ridiculous it all is. It doesn't mean you don't have to take responsibility for it. It's just like it loses the weight of it. And then you can start to think of creative ways to get around things and solve things. And, you know, my house has been an absolute wreck for months and months. And my life kind of got turned upside down early this spring, and it's back together. And you know what? It doesn't feel like it had been work at all. Especially when, like, we're continually trying to convince ourselves that there's something else but the present moment. And it ends up, like, literally piling weight on us. It actually feels like there's weight on us. And you can just, like, slowly kind of dissolve and see through that. And it's really a fun process. To lose the extra pounds. Oh, by the way, I weighed myself again. I hadn't weighed myself in forever. And I've gained like 4 pounds. I was like, really? I guess I have to weigh myself and pay attention more often. So yeah, it's really funny. The topic of this video came out and how everything tied in with, like, it is so funny when you start to realize synchronicity and stuff. But yeah. So guys, have a fun time with it, because really, that's all we're here for. I love you guys. Talk to you later. Bye.